At 7:01, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Susan, nice to see you.
Hey, everybody.
Dustin, hi, Natalie, Brad, hello. So let's get started. I haven't gotten any other notifications other than Dustin, the one you noted, but you're here, so that's awesome. About anybody else that's not going to be on the call. So Brad and Dustin, you'll be handling the night's first and seconding. I'll just give you the heads up about that right now so that you can be prepared for this. First agenda item, pardon me, as always, is the review and approval of the previous month's meeting notes. Those, as always, are in the cloud share. That we have, that link to that is listed on the town's website. And for the board members, as a reminder, I will always send, or typically will send, a link to that or any other pertinent documents that we discuss after the call. The meeting from last month was relatively short, but we packed a lot in there. There were some action items that I'll be able to report on. So if anybody hasn't checked them out already, please do so. At this time, I'd like to ask for an approval of those meeting notes. Do I have a motion to approve?
I motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Epic, thank you. Brad, please note that the meeting minutes from last month were approved. Natalie, I'm not sure I've ever seen your name on one of our calls before. Welcome as a member of the public. It's great to have you. It's great to have you here. We typically start off these meetings. Dustin, you might be unmuted. We can hear your people in the background. Thank you. Natalie, typically the way these things work, we always start the meetings off with a public forum. That way, anyone from the public who has any business or ideas to bring in front of the group can do so without having to necessarily sit through all the other agenda items that follow. So I'll open this up to public forum right now. Susan, it's always nice to have you here. I don't know if you're bringing anything. I know we've seen some pretty interesting things come through from your neck of the woods recently, but so with that, we'll open up the meeting to public forum. Susan.
Yeah, I just wanted to let you all know, in case you're not aware of it, that Locomotion has been running a winter webinar series. So our last one, we've done 4 of them already, and we have one last one coming up. I believe it's on April 18th. So I will drop the link in the chat in case you're interested in taking a look at the ones that we've already done and maybe attending this one coming up on the 18th. So we've done topics on just basically how to make your place better for walking and biking, why your town needs a master walk bike plan, funding strategies for local infrastructure. And then our next one we just finished was how and why to build great bike parking. And then this last one is titled Low-Cost Traffic Calming Techniques and Walk Bike Solutions for Rural Vermont. So just wanted to share that with you in case it wasn't on your radar.
Amazing. Those are all topics near and dear to the group's heart. We'll make sure we put that in the documentation, both from tonight's meeting as well as in some of our reference folder items as well. That'll be cool to check out. Brad, did you see that in the chat to grab for the thank you? Great. Are there any other public agenda items that anyone would like to bring up to the meeting, to the assembled group here before we move on to other agenda items? Okay, so we've got on agenda item number 3 is the Human Power Parade. It is back. I'm not 100% sure. It looks like based on the documentation that have been forwarded that the rec, I don't want to say the rec club, but the rec department at least has some handle on this year's Human Powered Parade. The date is 5/18, May 18th. Anybody who's not familiar with the Human Powered Parade, they draw a route around the Village Police District. Typically starts and end, or it typically starts from the hub. Everybody gathers in all manner of contraptions, not just necessarily bicycles, but tricycles and all kinds of other things. And it's basically just a parade around the Village Police District. We have supported it in the past in a variety of ways. We've been there with a booth back in the first year of the group. We've also provided mechanical assistance in the form of we've acted as a sweeper for the entire parade and been there with tools and things like that to repair bicycles. This year, there is actually a request out from Meredith at the rec department to see if we could provide one or two volunteers to work at one of two intersections for the parade. One of the intersections is the intersection of Liberty and Pine, and the other is the intersection of Pine and Maple. There's also, I believe, an intersection that's Maple to Church through the alleyway, if everybody knows the shortcut there. And so that might be up for a volunteer position too. But basically, somebody would stand there and basically come out and guide people as the parade hits those intersections. So I wanted to put that in front of the group. I'd love to have at least 1 to 2 volunteers for that day. It should not take very long. The parade itself is, it's pretty entertaining. It's also a fairly big and diverse group. If it doesn't necessarily move in a for Susan, I don't know if you've ever participated in it. Tanya, I'm not sure if you've ever participated in it. It doesn't exactly flow at a consistent pace. There's some stops along the way for activities and things like that. But once it moves and as it hits these intersections, it's moving through them and not like dilly-dallying or anything like that. So the lift is very light as far as a volunteer effort itself is concerned. They're just asking that our group's name was given to them by a citizen in the community that knows what we're up to when they themselves were asked about participation in the parade. So I'll put that out. I'll follow up to the group in a week or two just to get, like I said, 1 or 2 volunteers for that. And also, obviously, the invite is wide open to participate as well. The first year of the official BPAC group's activity, we had a booth at the starting point at the hub that Jerry, who's no longer with the group, had put together. We don't necessarily have to have something like that, but if anybody has any ideas or in general just wants to participate, it's a pretty fun show of camaraderie and support and solidarity for people on wheels that are not on motorized vehicles. Anybody have any questions or comments? I don't have too many answers, but I have participated in it before. So does anybody have any questions or anything about it at this time?
Yeah. Chris, what'd you say was the date of that event?
Dustin, it is May 18th. I believe that should be a Saturday.
Oh,
I don't,
okay.
and I don't have
gotta check my calendar, but if I'm available, I would participate or be involved somehow. I just got to check my family's calendar.
I'm looking at the documentation. I don't have a time yet, but I will get that.
Okay, I'll just look for it in an email later.
Got it.
Thank you.
I'll be there, but I probably will be doing foster bike stuff, but maybe I can do both. We'll see.
No worries. If you've got you're already there doing the good work, then we're not gonna split you in half. So
All right.
we're not gonna split your time in half, as it were. So
All right, thanks.
do you happen to know, Tanya, what the time is?
I don't remember right now. I can.
Okay. All right, I'll find out and forward that to everyone.
Okay.
Okay, then we will move on to the next agenda item, open board seats. I'm not sure if she was our shortest serving member. We certainly had 1 or 2 other members who didn't serve for that long, but Jessica Tietz gone almost as soon as she joined us, but for good reason. She just was elected to the select board, so she has to bounce off this board. So it's great to know that one of our own is now on the select board itself, where we've put business in front of them. And obviously the select board is our charter, is the reason why we're here. That opens up a board seat. There's actually also another open board seat that's been open effectively since like the third or fourth month of the founding of the group. Jessica has forwarded a handful, just under probably a half a dozen names, but I'd like to open up to the group right now. Let me know in the next couple weeks, a subset, or not a subset, just any names of anyone that you could think of that we might want to reach out to. I'd like to get these seats filled as soon as possible, rather than drag them out the way we unfortunately had previously dragged out filling out empty seats. I will also forward to the group the names that Jessica had forwarded me as well. So after the meeting, in my follow-up email, I'll let you all know that. But start thinking about that. Anyone you think might be interested. I've got one or two names from the previous go round. The wave where we brought in Brad and Jessica, that we can tap. I've mentioned them before, but those together with the people that Jessica mentioned are already a decent sized group, but I would love to have other options in there as well. Okay. Next agenda item, quarterly initiatives. I mentioned that it would be good this month, and we're not really going to be able to do anything since we don't have a quorum as far as members are concerned here tonight. But I would love to get for the next meeting, or even in advance of the next meeting, I'd love to circulate a quarterly initiatives that we can hone in on. I know if everyone checks Brad's meeting notes from both last month as well as the month before, there are some specific initiative or quarterly initiatives that are mentioned in there. So when we come into the April meeting, I'd like that to be something that we vote on immediately, so that we can get those items in front of the select board, and also do any pre-planning that we need to as far as grant writing is concerned that would get attached to those initiatives. Okay. Anybody else have anything to add about quarterly initiatives this month? Susan.
Yeah, so Chris, you and I haven't talked or connected in a while, but I know kind of the last time we were chatting by email, you guys were thinking about a community survey.
Yes, someone from Local Motion had drafted.
Me.
You had drafted it. And I know we had feedback, but can you refresh my memory if we had
Yeah, I think
provided
it
it to
just
you?
sort of, I don't remember the details. I know I drafted something and then,
Yeah.
but we never really finalized it, and we never kind of, actually made it happen. As far as that's one thing I wanted to ask you guys, if you ever did do that community survey. But I wanted to let you know that if it's something you haven't yet done and are still interested in doing it, we've recently got the capabilities now to allow folks in our surveys to actually geocode locations. So asking questions about where folks might have particular barriers, walking or biking, that they can actually pinpoint it on a map. So that would be data then that could be collected, that could be useful to inform your, list of quarterly initiatives, things that you're working on. But I know you sort of had a range of different things you were looking for. And I think that's where the conversation sort of stopped when we were just trying to figure out exactly what data you were looking for.
Yeah,
and then how you were intending to use that data. So, yeah.
So thanks for bringing this up. I'll go back and look at the correspondence between you and me. I remember the notes that I took after first pass of the draft. And I think we even discussed it on one of our monthly calls, actually. But I've got to go back and review if it was ever sent to the group, which the makeup of the group would be slightly different than it is today, when I would have sent it. But I do remember it being up for discussion during one of our meetings. But I'll go back and look and then forward that around. Brad, could you note that? so that I can dig that stuff up and send it. But I clearly remember
Yeah. Hopefully I didn't drop the ball on that. If I did, apologies for that. I know things did get pretty hairy. I'm busy for a while, but we are testing this new capability in doing a bike parking inventory survey up in St. Albans. So I think that'll be a nice test of the capabilities for this. It really, I think, opens up the opportunity to get a lot of good information from communities. So yeah, I'd be really excited to do that with you guys.
So two things on that. One, I remember the questionnaire had it was very robust as far as demographic oriented questions were concerned, which was great. I think our again on my first pass, it was okay, we need to get specific, we need to add specific questions about pain points and things like that, which it sounds like your new capabilities are going to make it even more acute as far as the ability to get details about that. Second, on the bike parking thing, do you have a link to our Bristol bike parking audit spreadsheet?
Well, so one of the other question, I was just gonna send a note to Brad I can't find where you guys even have your minutes and your agendas. The only thing, so when I go to the website for your group, there is a folder there and I can get into that folder. So if it's in there, I could access it, but I haven't seen it. It's a
Okay,
short
well,
answer.
if it's a folder, it's probably the share and most of those Brad just dropped that in there. And most of the folders and the subfolders in there are fairly intuitive as far as the naming conventions are concerned. So you should be able to find them. Not 100% sure. I'm not too much of a lunatic when it comes to file placing. So the spreadsheet should be in a place that's relatively easy to find, but regardless, we'll get to that to you. And it's a living document. The spreadsheet is. I don't know how many people have touched it since I originally stood it up. But it's basically a lightweight audit of all the bike racks and things of that nature that are around Bristol right now, based on an ask from people who lived in Bristol but not in the village district, and who had noted some use cases for wanting to keep their bikes in the village when they came into town. So that's where it had its genesis. But obviously, the intention isn't for it to be limited to the village. It's to also understand the watershed and the park down by the river as you go down 116. Apologies for people who frequent that, and I'm drawing a blank on the name of the little park there. But the intention is to basically use that as an action step towards figuring out where we need to put some, not just where they are, obviously. So.
And that would be something else too, if you're trying to maybe get your work and your name out into the community, that could be a separate kind of survey, standalone survey where you're putting it out there, like, where would you like to see bike parking in the community? Again, something that could be easily pinned to a map. You would have that data sort of, I think, nicely available for your use. So
that's good to know. I think that would actually be a good standalone survey to send. Obviously, the more times we're out there with these things, the better. But also the reason why we wanted to send that initial survey was pretty specific. It was about usage versus storage, as it were. And I think the usage, just to go back to a question you asked a couple minutes ago, the initial intention of that was to put some data behind some of the initiatives that we might be putting in front of the select board, just to start bringing more objectivity into these things in a proactive way, based on some of the experiences we've had with townspeople who are questioning the existence of our little group, but also some of the things that it's asking for, and so being proactive and objective with as much material as possible is what we wanted to do with that.
completely support that. That's great.
Awesome.
Thanks.
So I will dig into that after the meeting and get back to you, and we'll try to move forward quickly on that. Thank you very much for bringing that up. If there's nothing else on quarterly initiatives, and again, as a reminder to everybody, going into the April meeting, I want to do everything possible to make sure everybody's on that so that we can have a quorum and move some of these things in front of the select board at the next thing. So, and that all obviously, oh, sorry, Brad.
Well, the only thing I was going to add is I saw that Goosewing Timberworks up in Lincoln had
Yes.
put out that they were looking to do some pro bono work. So I wasn't sure if that could dovetail with bike parking or anything of that. They're looking for things that are more economically or environmental and socially justice aligned. So I wasn't sure if that fit into any of our initiatives exactly, but just wanted to put that out there.
I think it does, and I'll use that to as some glue that'll hold both this agenda item and the grants agenda item, which is next together. The grants and the initiatives to me are tied together at this point. One of the action items that we had from last month was to find out what those structures were at Bristol Works. They are unfortunately not up for grabs. They are actually bus stops. So one of them has already been placed and another one will be placed at a later date, but that's what they are. But when you sent that note to me about the Timberworks thing, their architectural style obviously feels a lot like those structures that were being stored at Bristol Works. And so I think that's something that would be great to it would be great to pursue. And it's something that obviously would pull in that audit of bike parking or the bike parking audit as well. I'd love to hear, and it'd be great to make some notes on what people think as far as what structures we could have. I know that the people who had asked were thinking of like bike parking from the standpoint of like more than just locking a bike up for a couple hours. So I don't know if that's something, you know, I know many of us are familiar with the bike lockers that are in some of the parking structures in Burlington, which are stamped metal and welded and all that stuff. I wonder if they could think. I wonder if the what's the name? Goldwing?
Goosewing.
Goosewing. I wonder if it'd be interesting to get their take on what a bike locker could potentially look like, or even just a structure that is built to hold bikes and give them some shelter while, you know, giving a broader number of bikes versus those bike lockers, which seem a little bit more restrictive as far as what you can do with them. So let's make a note, Brad, in the minutes with a link to that. Was it an Instagram post or it was some kind of social media post that you had screenshotted and sent to me?
Correct. Yeah. Instagram post.
Let's throw that in there and just add it to the list for everyone to discuss. So I feel like, again, the quarterly initiatives and the grants right now, based on Ian and Jessica's guidance to us, those two things are very closely related because an initiative will tend to move quicker and more positively through the select board if it's attached to a grant. So with that all said, we can move forward to agenda item 7, other business. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to bring up? Well, I'll start. I'll just elbow my way into one thing. One of the action items from last month was to find out what the plan is for Pine Street. I've reached out to Valerie and asked her, so I'll let everybody know if there is a published plan for the refinishing of Pine Street in a post water pipe replacement world. I know that a lot of people are looking to Pine Street, both from the standpoint of jump starting the traffic calming. Townsfolk want sidewalks there. We know that more than likely that's not going to happen. But I have reached out to her, and I also have a note out, or I have a note to reach out about the airport road thing as well. Now that people are walking more and more again, including all of us, like airport road remains a real problem, especially because a lot of people who happen to walk at the same time. Traffic is pretty heavy there in the morning. So anybody else have any other business to discuss? Anything you want to bring up? Well, then with that, I will ask for a motion to adjourn this month's meeting, but not before thanking everyone for joining. Natalie, it's nice that you could join us. Susan, great to see you. Thanks for the things that you brought up. That was awesome. So with that, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to
I-
adjourn?
Can I get a second?
I will second.
Okay, great. Then Brad, could you please note that at 7:26 PM, the meeting is adjourned, and yeah, see you all on email. Reach out if you need anything.